Let's just face it, guys. 2026 WWE has been not really as enjoyable as it has been in the previous years. Now, me personally, I feel like WWE really started going down a little bit in the mid 2025. I feel like once they kind of did the whole Cena heel turn, that's kind of when it really started going downhill. But what exactly is making the show not as enjoyable, and what is making it hard for us fans to really watch? Now, see, I try to be a little bit more optimistic when I watch the WWE, and I will admit, some things aren't exactly what we're picturing, but I do try to be optimistic and I do try to keep a cool head overall. But I won't lie, I will tell people how I feel about a current product or how I feel about something, and I won't lie. And I'm just going to come out and be honest. Yes, WWE is not exactly the same as it was a few years ago. Ever since Cody won the title in 2024, it just hasn't really been as enjoyable. You have the involvement of celebrities, ads, and all that kind of stuff. Ads have been a part of WWE since really the early days. And, of course, advertisement has always been a thing for WWE, but it just wasn't as noticeable. And here's the thing, we did see them in commercials like certain stuff, but it wasn't shoved down our throats to the point where it's like they're just trying to do advertisement after advertisement after advertisement. And it's kind of funny because I saw a little thing that somebody said the Attitude Era is really funny. And then in terms of celebrities, yeah, celebrities have been around as well too. I remember even Mike Tyson going against Stone Cold, Floyd Mayweather versus Big Show. I do remember all these type of things happening, but it wasn't to the point where it's like they have to be a part of every single thing. And that's really how it is, even on like just watching a random Monday Night Raw or a Friday Night SmackDown, more so Raw. They have to shove these celebrities and show them on the screen instead of giving it to the proper wrestlers. And I just feel like, in terms of this whole entire thing, it just really isn't going as good. And of course, we have the booking, the storytelling. The storytelling is just not really making any type of sense. Why is it that Gunther and Cody are just now feuding with each other when literally we thought we were going to see Gunther and LA Knight going against each other, and now we're just going to scrap that whole entire storyline completely? Or what about Cody versus CM Punk? This thing has been being built up since 2024, and it seems like we've been getting these little teases, and then just randomly we're just going to scrap it and act like that this feud doesn't exist either. So for me, it's like the storytelling is kind of all over the place. And another thing that is kind of annoying with the storylines as well is the fact that the stories don't really seem like they're as like engaging as they used to be. And the thing with what I'm saying with the stories is more so like they don't feel like they're personal or deep, or there's like any real like tension between them. It literally just feels like it's safe and protected. And instead of just having these people coming out once a week for 10 minutes, actually do some stuff to make it feel engaging. They only come out once a week for 10 minutes, and they only build it up for like 2 weeks. And then here we are at another PLE, which reminds me, these shows and PLEs that they have going on, it's just too much. Think about it like this: WrestleMania was just a month ago, April 20th, and then 2 weeks later, we're at Backlash, and then we take a week off, and then another week later, we got Saturday Night Main Event, and then another week later, we got Clash in Italy. So it's just like, that's just too much in terms of PLEs. There wasn't like this always. It used to kind of be a little bit more spread out because it allowed time for more stories to develop and kind of give some of the fans a little breather. But now it's just like, no, we got to shove it down everybody's throat because that's just how it goes. And then, not to mention, we have just weak stories that are happening as well. Sometimes it just seems like it's just a bunch of filler. You could literally miss a Monday Night Raw or a Friday Night SmackDown and you probably would not miss anything. And it's kind of funny because people say that you missed an entire 2025 and you didn't really miss anything. Well, yes, we did have people like John Cena turning heel, or Brock returning, or AJ Lee returning. It just doesn't feel like it has anything special. And also, let's just call it what it is. What exactly is going on with the championships? You know, Roman Reigns was champion for 1,316 days, and he did have some defenses, but he did also have leukemia to the point where it's like he couldn't wrestle every single night or every single pay-per-view like that they expect us. But then we get guys like Cody who become champion. Cody hasn't had a single defense in the past, I don't even know how long. He hasn't had a single defense, and maybe ever since WrestleMania, personally. And then I think, we have these people who just kind of get comfortable. Rhea and Liv Morgan, they have just become the new women's champions, and they haven't even defended their titles. It just seems like these people will win championships and then they don't ever defend them. And it just feels like as if like they just carry the titles around as some sort of like novelty or something. And that's what kind of makes it feel like the championships have lost their prestige. There was a point where the championships actually used to feel desirable. You wanted somebody to become the champion. Nowadays, it's just kind of like, yeah, they're the champion, but they don't ever defend the championship. So it's just kind of like, so what's the point of being a champion then? Is it just something for bragging rights? Is it just because then you can just go around and carrying something just to show it off? And I think there used to be a penalty where if somebody was champion and they didn't defend it for some time, they would actually get stripped of the title, or they would be getting addressed of it, or they'd be getting warned like, hey, if you don't defend this title, then we will strip it off of you. So it's just kind of too relaxed now with that type of thing. And then, you got Rhea on SmackDown, and she's not even really competing with anybody. Yeah, maybe Jade is going to do something with Rhea, but it just doesn't seem like there's anything going on with any of the storylines and the championships in that matter. And it's kind of funny, and I hate to sound like this guy, but back then, champions used to actually show up on a show and they would actually wrestle. Now, they didn't have to defend the title every night, but it also was something that unique to see when you got to see a championship coming out and they would actually be able to compete and wrestle. And occasionally they would treat us with a championship match, and then we would get crowned a new champion on the new show, or we would get crowned a new champion on the show, whether it was just Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. It was something that would completely, throw us all off. And people do say that TKO is the problem right now with WWE as to why WWE isn't doing so good. And while I do think TKO is trying to squeeze as much money out of the fans as possible, considering like the ticket prices are out of control as well, and considering the fact that we have them people just paying this kind of money, and they're trying to go crazy with the ads, as I've already stated. But TKO isn't the one booking the stories, because let's just call it what it is. Are TKO really in the boardrooms with Triple H when they're trying to book like the shows and the rivalries and all that kind of stuff? No, it's always Triple H and a few other people. And Triple H, I'm sorry guys, I hate to sound like this kind of person as well. Triple H, I feel like, really had a great run going from 2022 all the way up to 2024. But now it just seems like it's just a bunch of filler that Triple H is doing. And you would think Triple H would kind of understand how to make the shows a little bit more engaging and try to add some drama or stakes to all this kind of stuff. But we don't see that because it's always just Triple H. Just kind of, they're always bragging about how many social media views they get, and they're always bragging about how many type of things happen. And by the way, a whole nother thing I did want to talk about with the whole celebrity influence, I do understand like if they're trying to get like new faces to want to watch the product, you're going to try to involve like celebrities and like social media influencers and everything. But the thing is you shouldn't be trying to focus on building those type of people, the business around those type of people. You should be trying to build up new stars to try to get us engaged and invested in the stories. And speaking of new stars and everything, I'm just going to call it what it is. Guys like Javon Evans and Obafemi and Trick Williams, while they are great, I almost feel like sometimes they try to act like that these people are like the best thing ever. But let's just say what it is. Before Brock returned on Raw the other night, Obafemi was not going to be doing anything. And see, this is what I kind of feared with Obafemi, because Obafemi is this really big star. And of course, he just beat Brock Lesnar. So for Obafemi to have an open challenge, it's kind of shows that they had no idea what to do with them. And that probably is hard to book somebody like Oba, since considering you look at somebody like Oba and there's not really many guys in the locker room that could size up well with Oba. So that's just kind of one of the sad things indeed. And not to mention, we've been having a bunch of releases happening as well. Now, I know releases are going to happen, and I know, it sucks to lose your job. Like, that's the last thing you want to see is somebody lose their job. But when it comes to certain releases that happened a few months ago, it doesn't make sense, because it's like, you have people like Zelina Vega and Aleister Black, or Kairi Sane, and they were actually involved in a storyline. And the Wyatt Six, while they did have potential to become something good, well, they got released because, they didn't know what to do with them. And then the New Day decides to leave WWE. And then, of course, some of these releases were valid, of course, because some of them weren't actually doing much of anything. But when it comes to the ones I just listed, like, they were actually something that was part of the company. And yes, the Wyatt Six were involved in a story with the MFTs, but were they really having that like credible fear factor? See, me personally, I feel like they could have just did away with the Wyatt Six though, because I feel like Bray Wyatt had that character and he did it well. So I think they should just left that in Bray's legacy. So that's just something else that had to be talked about as well, is the releases. And not to mention, the John Cena Classic has a lot of people up in, a little bit of people up in, bit of a type of feeling. Now, I don't really know how to feel personally about the John Cena Classic. I mean, it does kind of sound like it's an interesting idea, but I also think it's kind of a little silly. Like, if somebody wins, or like if somebody loses the tournament or something, then you have to like vote for that person to come back, like if you really want them. And I don't know, man, I just feel like WWE hasn't really been like as like exciting to watch. Now maybe it will eventually kind of get better, and that's why I think sometimes we always do watch the shows, because sometimes we do have a small glimmer of hope. And I don't know. I mean, they still do rely on a lot of older talent like Roman and Cody. And don't get me wrong, Roman, Cody, Brock, CM Punk, Seth, all those guys, they're doing great. But if we're supposed to be building towards the future, then why aren't we getting these guys in, like, giving them more of like a push? Why doesn't it not feel like it's a really earned type of thing with these type of guys? It just kind of feels like they're just there just to kind of do their job and go home. And that's just me personally. And and it's even funnier because, literally these guys are supposed to be the future of the company. And, this is like going back into the Ruthless Aggression era and seeing somebody like Hulk Hogan, seeing somebody like Hulk Hogan getting more of a push than somebody like John Cena back then. John Cena and Randy Orton, they were the future of the WWE, but the shows weren't always revolving around Hulk Hogan. Yeah, sure, he was still there, but he wasn't carrying the company like he was back then, and that's kind of how it feels nowadays. Javon Evans, Oba, and Trick are supposed to be the future, but they're not getting pushed or they don't feel like it's as earned right now. And instead, we're getting people like Roman and Cody having to come back to kind of save the company. So it just kind of feels like, why are we relying on those guys? And that's just kind of something WWE tends to really like do in general. They tend to like always like put all their eggs in one basket with a star, and they usually put all their focus on that one person. But see, here's the thing, they don't want anybody being bigger than the company. And you would think that they would be okay with that, considering the fact that this is something that is going to help boost the business. You would expect them to want to have household names in the company, but they don't want that for some reason. Which I guess in some way it's like, I guess they just don't want them to feel like they're going to outshine them or in some way. But it also would be good too, because, that's if you want people to start watching the show more, then, try to get them out more and try to get them to start like doing more outside of the company. And honestly, guys, like what Logan Paul was doing is honestly really smart, because, you got to think about it. Logan Paul, even though he may not have the greatest reputation, he's actually pretty smart for what he's doing, because he's a wrestler and he's also a social media influencer too. So, like, he can go outside on YouTube and everything. And also, he does other things as well, where he's like on Instagram and everything. So, like, he's well known around, and you would think that these guys would start trying to do that kind of stuff as well, where they would start trying to say, okay, let me get my name out there a little bit more. Let me try getting on Instagram or, getting on YouTube or something, and just trying to get their name out there a little bit more. Instead, we get podcasts with Cody Rhodes talking to Triple H and Gunther, which again, that is another reason why the storylines don't make sense either. We got Cody Rhodes and Gunther on podcasts 1 month ago or 2 months ago, whenever it was, and now they're on the show feuding with each other. So that's another thing that just doesn't really add up as well. We don't need that, doesn't have consistency, because it's more so it's like, it makes you feel like, how are we supposed to believe if these guys really don't like each other, if they're going to be all buddy buddy with each other on a podcast 1 minute and then next minute later they're supposed to be feuding? So again, it doesn't make sense. And something else that really doesn't make sense either is the fact that they're trying to push somebody like Gunther. Like I said, they were trying to push these younger guys, and they should try to push these younger guys, but instead they're pushing somebody like Gunther because they're so hell bent on thinking this guy is going to be the future of the company. He's almost 40 years old. He turns 40 in August, I think. And literally, he retired John Cena, AJ Styles, and Goldberg, and now they want him to try to retire Brock Lesnar, because think about it. That's the only reason why Brock is back, because they want Gunther to retire Brock because he's supposed to be the career killer. And it doesn't really help the fact that he's not really getting this like major heat. He doesn't have any heat or real like tension with himself, with the fans, to the point where the fans could actually believe like, okay, this guy's a legit threat. Literally, if this was anybody else that they did to try to push and try to make him a legit like heel, then of course like people would be booing them more. But the thing is we don't believe with Gunther, because Gunther doesn't seem believable. Anytime Gunther comes out, he doesn't get any cheer or boo. He literally just gets nothing. And I just feel like, realistically, it's kind of hard to really be a fan of the product right now. I remember watching this in 2024 and just being so glued to the screen all the time. And even after Cody did win, it briefly was kind of okay. Like, it still was somewhat watchable and decent with what they were doing. Like CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, or Cody and Roman still trying to like team up with each other, or Solo and everything. Like, it still was intriguing, but now it just doesn't have that same energy. Now it just feels kind of bland and lifeless. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. And let me know, what are your guys' thoughts and opinions on the current product right now? Are you guys having any issues? Do you guys see anything wrong with it? Make sure you address whatever you don't like that is happening in this current product. Or if there's some things that you do like that are happening. I'm open to hearing anything. I just wanted to speak the truth on how I feel. Anyway, that's all I really have to say. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.